There's a point in a relationship when the feeling changes, and it's rarely loud. No big fight, no betrayal you can name right away. Just a slow tightening inside. You start noticing that being around them doesn't leave you feeling restored anymore. It leaves you thinner, like part of your energy stayed behind or got borrowed without being given back. At first you question yourself. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're overthinking. Maybe the problem is you and not the connection. But that questioning doesn't make the feeling go away. It just makes it quieter. And over time, quieter becomes clearer. Your system, the part of you that feels everything so deeply, starts sending signals, not dramatic alarms, soft, persistent ones, signs that say, this space isn't holding me the way it used to. These signs don't arrive all at once. They gather. They whisper through your body, through your thoughts, through the way silence starts to feel. And once you start listening, it's hard to pretend you don't hear them. Here are 6 of those quiet signs that often appear when a relationship no longer feels safe for your energy. The first sign is the lingering tightness that shows up afterward. You might not feel it in the moment. You talk, you smile, you listen. But later, when you're alone, when the house is still, there's this residual clench in your chest, your stomach, your shoulders, a heaviness that doesn't match how much you actually did. It's your nervous system keeping score. It remembers the subtle demands, the unspoken expectations, the times you automatically adjusted yourself to keep things smooth. And now it's asking you to pay attention. That tightness isn't random. It's memory. It's your body saying what your mind is still trying to explain away. The second sign is how you begin putting their emotional state first without even deciding to. You walk in and immediately scan. Are they tense? Distant? Upset? You adjust your tone, your words, your energy before you check in with your own. You tell yourself it's care, it's empathy. But after a while, you notice it's become automatic. You're regulating them far more than they're regulating you. In a safe relationship, that flow goes both ways. Here, it tips consistently in one direction. You become the container, the listener, the steady one every time. And every time that happens without reciprocity, a little more of your own emotional space gets used up. The third sign is how silence stops feeling comfortable. In connections that still feel safe, silence is rest. 2 people just being, breathing, no need to fill every gap. But when safety fades, silence turns heavy. You feel it pressing. You wonder what they're thinking. If you've disappointed them. If something's wrong and you missed it. So you speak to break it. You ask questions, offer reassurance, keep things light, or you go quiet yourself, retreating inward because speaking feels riskier. Either way, silence stops being shared. It becomes a space where tension hides, where you start second-guessing your right to just exist without performing. The fourth sign is the slow editing of yourself. You catch it mid-sentence. You pull back what you were about to say. You soften an opinion. You laugh when it doesn't feel funny. You share less of your real thoughts because you've learned, maybe without realizing, the response will be flat or critical or simply not met. So you curate. You present a smaller version. At first it feels like compromise, like making room. But over time you notice how much of you is missing from the conversation, how depth gets archived, how your quirks stay hidden. Authenticity is oxygen for deep feelers. When you have to edit to stay connected, safety quietly slips away. The fifth sign is the emotional aftertaste that clings. You spend time together, and afterward, their mood stays on you. Their frustration becomes your low restlessness. Their unspoken disappointment becomes your vague guilt. You didn't invite these feelings in, but they arrive anyway, and they take time, hours, sometimes days, to fade. You might blame fatigue or stress, but it's more specific. It's absorption without agreement. In a safe relationship, emotions are shared with consent and balance. When someone else's state consistently becomes yours to carry, your system registers it as a violation. Not because they're cruel, because the exchange is no longer fair. The sixth sign is the quiet grief for what used to be. You remember earlier moments when being with them felt expansive, not contracting, when your energy was met with curiosity instead of management, when silence was easy and your full self was welcome. That remembering brings a soft ache, not loud sadness, just tender recognition that something essential has changed. You don't want to admit it because admitting it means loss. But the grief is honest. It's your inner world mourning the safety that once existed. And that mourning is often the last teacher. It doesn't demand you act. It simply shows you the truth. The connection may still be there, but the safety within it has diminished. These signs don't shout. They accumulate like dust in corners. But once you see them clearly, the relationship feels different. Not because you became too sensitive, but because you stopped ignoring what you've always known. Recognizing this doesn't mean everything ends tomorrow. It doesn't mean you're unforgiving or broken. It just means you're listening to a system that has spent time learning what safety feels like and what it doesn't. Listening to the part of you that refuses to betray itself anymore. If these signs are familiar right now, the tightness, the automatic prioritizing, the loaded silence, the editing, the aftertaste, the grief, let them be there. Not to rush a choice, not to blame anyone, just to honor the intelligence that's been speaking quietly all along. Because when you stop overriding those signals, something grows. Not walls, not bitterness, just a gentle knowing that your energy matters, that it deserves reciprocity, that it's okay to protect what you've learned to value. That's not the opposite of connection. It's the beginning of connections that actually hold you. Sit with that. No need to decide anything right now. Just notice how much your inner world already understands.